Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. What we're learning about the suspect charged with hijacking and the military response after planes were grounded at YVR.
We were in a great tactical position for the time that we had.
Plus,
not stoked about it, that's for sure. Definitely pissed off.
Keeping cool, but at a higher cost. Why FortisBC has denied 200 applications for heat pump rebates. And
I didn't notice this sign.
Swim at your own risk. Warnings are up for several Metro Vancouver beaches because of higher E. coli levels.
Better stay out of the sea, I would say.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. We have new details to share about the alleged hijacking of a plane that grounded flights at Vancouver International Airport earlier in the week. And we're learning more about the man now charged. Yasmin Khanea explains the suspect's possible intentions.
A safe landing that allegedly began with a threat of violence. Police allege Shahar Qasim threatened a flight instructor and hijacked a small plane traveling from Victoria International Airport to Vancouver's YVR. In an audio recording, air traffic control can be heard warning others of the situation.
There's a Cessna over the airport, around 500 feet, some type of protest. They said they'll be here for a couple hours.
RCMP now say the 39-year-old suspect acted with an ideological motive to disrupt airspace, but didn't specify what the motive was. But a Facebook profile of a Vancouver Island man with the same name who says he has a commercial pilot's license posted a day before the plane was allegedly stolen. In the rambling rant, he says, quote, "I am a messenger of Allah. I am the Messiah sent to save humanity from climate change and usher in an era of world peace." Tuesday's incident grounded planes for about 40 minutes and diverted 9 flights to other airports. NORAD Command scrambled U.S. F-15 fighter jets in response.
We were in a great tactical position for the time that we had, and we could have moved closer as we wanted to.
But the plane landed before jets intercepted it.
As we assessed what he was doing, wasn't really posing a threat because he was flying over the airfield as opposed to over Vancouver.
BC Premier David Eby thanked everyone who responded to what he called a bizarre moment.
That it was resolved without loss of life, that it was resolved without a more significant disruption is a testament to their skill.
Qasim is charged with 1 count of hijacking. The Public Prosecution Service of Canada says it also constitutes a terrorist offence. He's due to appear in court on July 22nd. Yasmin Khanea, CBC News, Vancouver.
Some customers are seeing red after FortisBC denied 200 applications for heat pump rebates. That's because the prominent company that installed them had its certification temporarily suspended. Those rebates add up to about $1.5 million. As John Hernandez reports, the HVAC company blames a communication error for the confusion.
Jeff Thompson's North Vancouver home might be cool, but his blood is boiling.
Not stoked about it, that's for sure. Definitely pissed off.
This spring, Thompson contracted Moore & Russell Heating and Air Conditioning to install a heat pump in his house. The $20,000 job was supposed to come with a FortisBC rebate that would cover half the costs. It even said it on the bill.
$10,150 FortisBC rebate qualified. Quote, no hidden costs. It literally says it right there.
But he didn't know the company's certification to provide rebate qualified service was temporarily suspended by the Home Performance Contractor Network, or HPCN. When he applied for the rebate days later, FortisBC denied it.
At first I was shocked because it was a huge company in Metro Vancouver, reputable, and had been on that list. So I was like, well, this must be some sort of mistake.
Moore & Russell's certification was revoked because a new technician hadn't finished a training course. The company's GM says they didn't find out about the suspension until months later.
And HPCN's program manager sent an email to us informing us that our account had been put on pause. But unfortunately, we never received the email, and HPCN doesn't have a process, even still, to follow up.
But HPCN said emails and follow-up emails about a company's status are standard practice. As many as 200 customers were served by Moore & Russell over that time and subsequently denied rebates totaling about $1.5 million. Thompson says the program as a whole needs to do a better job telling customers which companies are certified.
It's unfair to me from all the promotion from Fortis that, it's straightforward and you're going to get your rebate back and it's anything but. We got stuck in a hole.
Moore & Russell says it's once again in good standing and hopes the rebates will be honored. But no promises have been made by Fortis BC, which simply says it's looking into what happened. John Hernandez, CBC News, North Vancouver.
Premier David Eby has made key changes to his cabinet to focus on jobs and the economy, part of what he calls a strategic shift in light of threats from the U.S. Mira Baines has more on the moves and reaction.
The threats from the president have not only escalated, but they have started to materialize in economic impacts right across the country, including in British Columbia.
And to that end, Premier David Eby is switching up the heads of housing, jobs, and public safety.
You might have to shift some players to ensure that the skills that they bring to the table are meeting the moment.
Ravi Kahlon moves from housing to jobs and economic growth.
We have to expand our trade infrastructure so that we can quite frankly, facilitate the growth of the country. I think all the provinces are looking west.
Former Vancouver City Councillor Christine Boyle is now in charge of housing.
In some ways, I think this can be interpreted as a kind of centralization of power in the hands of the trusted few for Mr. Eby.
Another major change, Victoria Swan Lake MLA Nina Krieger replaces former RCMP officer Gary Begg as Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General. Begg is now Parliamentary Secretary of Surrey Infrastructure, where his riding is.
Mr. Eby is hearing criticisms with the handling of key security issues, whether it is law and order issues in neighborhoods like the downtown east side or the police transition in Surrey.
Krieger, a former director for the Vancouver Holocaust Education Centre, faces several challenges. There's pressure to crack down on intimate partner violence, public street disorder, and extortion against people in Surrey's South Asian community.
I'm looking forward first and foremost to being briefed by my team at the ministry and to continuing the important work happening on a number of fronts.
The BC Conservatives say the Premier is trying to distract from ongoing controversies.
Think about it, we're exporting jobs with our ferries being built in China. We have healthcare being provided by GoFundMe campaigns. There's so many problems in British Columbia, and David Eby wants to change the channel, so he thinks a cabinet shuffle is the way to do that.
Several other MLAs also have new jobs. Vancouver West End Spencer Chandra Herbert is the new Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation. Surrey MLA Jesse Sunner is now Minister of Post-Secondary Education. And Port Moody Burke-Coquitlam's Rick Glumac is the new Minister of State for AI and New Technologies. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
Vancouver fire crews have been busy with a two-alarm blaze on West Hastings Street. A fire official says it started between 2 and 3 p.m. Crews responded to smoke coming out of the rooftop area of one of the buildings.
They found that the fire was in the walls between the two buildings of West 35 and West 33 Hastings Street. Crews exposed and got to the scene of the fire and knocked it down.
Gray says 2 units were damaged on the 3rd floor, along with the wall between the 2 buildings and the top of the roofs. One firefighter received a minor injury and went to the hospital to get checked out. North Vancouver RCMP have a warning for you after they say the driver of an F-150 truck allegedly pulled over another vehicle and claimed to be an officer. He's now been charged. Police say the driver allegedly pulled over a white Tesla using flashing lights that resembled emergency vehicles on the dashboard of his truck, then identified himself as a North Vancouver Mountie. The Tesla driver later called 911 and a suspect was arrested. Police now say Wayne Church is charged with personating a peace officer and using equipment likely to cause the public to believe he was a cop. People on the downtown east side have a new way to beat the heat this summer. It's described as a cooling bus, part of a grassroots initiative offering bottled water and other supplies as temperatures climb. Amelia John went along for a ride.
Stay hydrated. That's what we're here for. 3 days a week, the Axe Community Bus makes stops across Vancouver's downtown east side, helping people in need.
It's so hot. And as you can see, there's not a lot of places for people to go.
The bus is a new initiative led by volunteers and former residents of Crab Park.
You can walk down the road and people are sitting on the street and they have heat stroke and they're going to the hospital and stuff because they're so sick from the heat and dehydration.
For the past couple of weeks, peer support workers have been giving out water, food, and harm reduction supplies.
Alrighty, have a good day.
It's so hot. There's so many people out. There's such a need for the water. Of course, there's other resources, but not everyone's going to be able to go up to, whatever the community center or access some of those resources.
In 2021, the neighborhood was gripped by a deadly heat dome. The city of Vancouver says over the past 3 years, more than 6,200 cool kits have been handed out to more than a dozen organizations, and cooling centers are available.
And when we see a spike in something, so when we have extreme weather events, either in the summertime or the wintertime, you'll see a big push to make sure that vulnerable populations are taken care of.
For peer support workers, it's about giving back to the community.
Yeah, have a good day. I've needed help before, and there's been people out there that have had the compassion that has helped me, and I feel like that's helped me really progress in my life.
Organizers are now fundraising in an effort to get the bus on the road 5 days a week so they can help more people cool down and stay safe this summer. Amelia John, CBC News, Vancouver.
If you're planning to take a swim in Metro Vancouver to beat the heat, listen up. Several beaches have been put under advisory because of elevated E. coli levels. Our Jana Bailon hit the sand to speak with beachgoers.
Better stay out of the sea, I would say. It's not to save them.
I didn't notice this sign. People are swimming. No one cares. We don't have plenty of time for summer.
On hot summer days like this, it can be extra tempting to take a dip in the water until you come across this sign. The swimming advisory is in place here at 3rd Beach and several other beaches across the region due to high E. coli levels, which pose a health risk.
So some of the things that we worry the most about can be gastrointestinal illness or illness related to the stomach and intestines, upset stomach, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and related symptoms can all be potentially caused by these infections, as well as that irritation to the skin and the eyes are things that could be major concerns.
Every week from May to September, beaches across Metro Vancouver are tested for bacteria, which can be present through animal poop, sewage, and stormwater drainage. The advisories are issued when the health risks are high enough, and they tell people to stay out of the water. That includes swimming and even playing in the water.
And avoid that direct contact with the water. Certainly, if you are in contact with the water, be sure to shower well, wash your hands after that contact, and absolutely do so before eating or drinking or other activities that could lead to contamination.
Vancouver Coastal Health says people can still come out to enjoy the sand, the sun, and the views, but while the advisory is still in place, it's best to stay out of the water. Jana Bailon, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now let's take a closer look at those beach closures. The day began with 5 no swimming advisories. Those were at Lions Bay, Dunderave, 3rd Beach, Sunset Beach, and at Trout Lake. That has now been expanded, though. The warnings include now 2nd Beach, English Bay Beach, as well as Kitsilano Beach. Local and BC wildfire crews are in Soyuz dealing with a blaze at the north end of the lake. At last check, it is 2.4 hectares large and considered out of control. Soyuz crews are being helped by the Oliver Fire Department, and BC Wildfire has both crews on the ground and in the air. BC Wildfire says it started as a structure fire before spreading into very dry brush. They're asking people on the north end of the lake to stay clear of aircraft that are getting water out of the lake. Darius Madavi is here with our look at the weather and the change in the drought conditions. What's the latest?
That's right. A bit of a more complex picture than usual this time around, Dan. The Fort Nelson Basin has improved. That is big news considering how long it's been under terrible drought conditions, but some worsening in the East Peace, some worsening also in parts of the southern interior, although not everywhere. So very complex picture this time around, but with very little precipitation on the way for most of these areas. They're not expecting to see too much improvement, although there is going to be change afoot. Not precipitation coming, but temperatures coming down. We'll talk more about that later in the show.
Okay, thanks, Doris.
Thank you.
Some Vancouver Island wilderness advocates want more transparency about what's happening on privately held forest lands. That story's next. Wilderness advocates on Vancouver Island are calling on the province to reform forest practices on private land. They say conservation is taking a backseat to industrial uses in those areas. And as Claire Palmer explains, some say it poses risks to nearby communities.
Just outside Port Alberni lies Mount Arrowsmith, a popular hiking spot gated by mosaic. But some might notice the pristine landscape isn't so pristine.
And as you can see behind me, there's a fairly large visible clear cut that is visible from the Alberni Highway 4 and the Alberni Visitor Center, which is quite dominant on the landscape.
He says while many are concerned about hiking access, his primary concern is far bigger. He says current logging practices increase the risk of drought and wildfire and can cause loss of biodiversity.
And it's not my opinion. Science has shown that extensive clear cuts with young, immature monoculture stands are at risk next to communities. So we have all of these concerns. We need to have these difficult conversations very soon.
private managed forest lands cover almost a quarter of the island. Jen Holland is chairing an alliance of almost 30 grassroots organizations on the island and says the uniting factor is concern over how the land is managed. Holland says that while the mosaic gates present access and transparency issues, the recent recreation survey is a step in the right direction, and the bigger issue lies with what goes on behind the gates.
I hope that they are accountable and do actually release the results and recommendations and follow through on those recommendations in September, but it's more than just access.
Weaver is using his background in forestry for advocacy and is in one of the groups that make up the alliance, which is currently calling on the province to step up. He says private land has to abide by an act that was brought into place in 2003, and it needs an update.
Now that act, on the spectrum of Logging Practices Act, and I can speak from my forestry background, it's really at the bottom.
The BC government reviewed the Private Managed Forest Land Act in 2019, and while a report was produced, both Weaver and Holland say no changes were made to the act following the review. The province says they are taking action to modernize the act, but did not share specifics. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Port Alberni.
The district of Clearwater, north of Kamloops, is preparing for a potentially major change. Last week, Taseko Mines announced it was moving ahead with environmental assessments for the Yellowhead Copper project. This doesn't necessarily mean it is a go, but as the CBC's Jennifer Norwell explains, the community has to start preparing now.
A proposed copper mine might end up doubling the population of a small BC town within a decade. Just last week, major mining company Taseko announced it was going ahead with 3 environmental assessments for a massive open pit mine in the Clearwater area. It's so big, could lead to around 600 direct jobs and around 1,100 spin-off jobs. That's when it's running. It says nothing about the large number of jobs that could happen during construction. The mine could end up providing around 178 million pounds of copper over 25 years. So that's like 14,774 elephants, so a lot of copper. And it comes at a time when both the provincial and the federal governments are trying to solidify local production. Given the tensions with the US, politicians are trying to fast-track these big projects in the name of national security. But it leaves communities like Clearwater trying to plan for what to do next. Mayor Merlin Blackwell says if the community wants to wait to start planning till approval, they might end up playing catch-up.
We lived through the boomtown of Trans Mountain, the effects that had on this town. We've learned our lesson. We need to get ahead of this.
That's because things like pools and schools and hospital expansions all take time, money, and planning. Wednesday night, the community is having a meeting where people can share their visions for Clearwater's future. And the mayor says there's never been a better or more important time given how the community could be changing. That said, the mine still hasn't been approved, so it's all just preparations for now.
An amazing tapestry of colors up at the Johnstone Strait. The fog burning off in the mid-afternoon with hints of blue sky shining through. A little bit more of a hint there, I should say. Darius has your BC-wide weather forecast coming right up.
I think it's important to give a human face to the stories that we hear every day, the people that they affect. And I think talking to those people is what really gives us the true sense of the impact of the stories that we're hearing.
Prime Minister Mark Carney held a pivotal summit with several First Nations leaders in Gatineau, Quebec today. He promised to listen to their concerns about the federal government legislation to fast-track infrastructure projects. As Olivia Stefanovich tells us, it was also a major test of the Prime Minister's ability to work with First Nations.
Please help me welcome the Prime Minister.
Facing a skeptical crowd, Prime Minister Mark Carney made his pitch.
This is the first federal legislation to put Indigenous economic growth at its core.
As he tried to earn the support of First Nations leaders for a new law that speeds up the approval of major projects.
We fully recognize there's many diverse perspectives, which is exactly why we've assembled this group.
Outside the summit, concerns laid out loud and clear.
I need you guys to just go back there, and then you can do whatever you want there.
Let us in. As opponents tried to confront Carney.
You guys took our land and you stole it. Now you want to put mining sites where our last land is. Our land is the most untouched land in Canada.
I'm walking out. I mean, this whole thing has just been a complete disaster.
Back inside, some left the meeting early.
They want to do billion-dollar projects, sidestepping all type of regulations, and they can't even get a two-day event done properly. Leaves a lot to question at the end of the day.
That's not a good start. I think there has to be a reset, and there has to be a process set in place.
Others stayed, hoping for a resolution.
Prime Minister Carney has to dial it back, and he has to be able to say, okay, pushing a bill wasn't the greatest idea.
We were absolutely clear what we intended to do. Canadians backed that.
That acknowledgement didn't come, but Carney did promise to never override First Nations rights.
He took the time out to meet with all the chiefs. It's got to be it's a tough crowd.
And Carney's plan has First Nations supporters eager to pitch energy and infrastructure projects.
If we're able to expedite those economic initiatives to see them come to fruition in a timely manner, it'll benefit the economics of the nation. Then that alleviates the social problems like housing, education, health, and other areas.
Carney says he won't make any changes to the law, but that the summit is just the start of working with First Nations. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Trump administration is under mounting pressure to release more of the so-called Jeffrey Epstein files. Many Trump supporters have long called for documents from the investigation into the late convicted sex offender to be made public. As Katie Nicholson reports, the U.S. president's recent efforts to quell the furor are not working.
Despite President Donald Trump's fervent wishes, the furor over the decision to not release any more files from the federal investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein isn't dying down. Yesterday, he criticized people who were calling for more disclosure or for Attorney General Pam Bondi to be fired, calling them weaklings, and suggested he didn't want their support anymore. Then he went on to say this.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net, and so they try and do the Democrats' work.
The White House press secretary was asked today what specifically Trump meant by that word hoax.
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency.
The problem is, while Democrats are making political hay over this controversy, the loudest voices are coming from Trump's own supporters. Far-right figures like Laura Loomer and Alex Jones. Elon Musk has been using his platform as well to hammer away at the administration. One Republican representative is even working with Democrats to force a House vote to release the files. It's playing out prominently as well on cable news, even late-night comedy shows. And a Reuters Ipsos poll has now found that 69% of Americans think the government is hiding Epstein's alleged client list, something the DOJ says simply does not exist. This all blew up last week when the DOJ and the FBI released a memo saying they wouldn't release any more files from the sex trafficking investigation into the disgraced financier. Many Trump voters believe that a cabal of wealthy elites are involved in a global pedophile ring, and Epstein is a key figure. They supported Trump in part because they believed he would release the documents that would prove these theories. Now many say they feel betrayed. One potential off-ramp for the president, suggested by some Republicans, is for Trump to appoint a special counsel to look into the matter. Today, the White House said that's not something the president will be doing. And so the questions and the outrage continue. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
And we have an update on this story. A short time ago, President Donald Trump says he has asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony in the Jeffrey Epstein case, subject to court approval. Well, as e-scooters become more popular on our streets, it's hospitals that are seeing the fallout. A new report says more Canadians are getting hurt, either while riding an e-scooter or because they were hit by one. Some say it's time to put the brakes on their misuse. More now from Jennifer LaGrassa.
It might feel like e-scooters are everywhere these days.
It's really convenient to use it in the bike lane.
But they aren't the safest.
I'm very cautious when I'm riding around. I try not to ride on main streets, etc. But yeah, there are a lot of accidents going on.
E-scooter injuries are on the rise, says a new report from the Canadian Institute for Health Information. Between April 2023 and March 2024, nearly 1,000 people went to hospital for scooter injuries. Half of those were related to e-scooters, a 32% increase from the year before. Men between 18 and 64 account for most hospital visits, but emergency room doctors say they're also seeing a lot of kids.
The one that I could remember was a 14-year-old boy who was riding a scooter, and unfortunately he was in an accident. He ended up having a brain bleed, where we had to transfer him to a trauma center.
My message is for parents not to be buying these for their children. They're not toys.
It's mostly boys between 10 and 14 years old who end up at Toronto's sick kids. Many didn't wear a helmet.
If you have speed plus head injury, a helmet will help mitigate those injuries every time.
One injury prevention group says better regulations are also needed.
The current laws around scooters really vary. Enforcement is such a key component to preventing injuries.
Across Canada, there's a patchwork of e-scooter laws. Toronto, for example, has outright banned them, though they're still often seen on streets and sidewalks. In cities like Vancouver and Edmonton, they're available to easily rent in many neighborhoods, but there are different rules about who can ride. Experts say young kids shouldn't be riding or jumping on with another person. And if you do ride, wear a helmet, ride on properly paved streets, and follow the rules of the road. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Toronto.
Scientists in the UK say an experimental IVF technique is allowing babies to avoid inheriting devastating genetic diseases from a parent. It involves using DNA from 3 people. But as the CBC's Anna Cunningham reports, questions about safety and ethics remain.
The 8 healthy babies born through this process carry 0.1% of their DNA from the second woman. It is a permanent change that will be passed down through the generations. Mitochondrial disease can lead to brain damage, developmental delay, muscle wasting, heart failure and blindness. The scientists behind this research say it's a real game changer.
So we remove the nuclear DNA from the patient's egg and transplant that into the fertilised egg from a donor that's had its nuclear DNA removed. After the procedure, the embryos are left to develop on, and we check them at various different time points to make sure they're developing normally.
10 years ago, the UK became the first country to introduce laws allowing the creation of babies with DNA from 3 people.
You now have an option that allows you to have children that are genetically your own, but without the risk of passing on that mitochondrial disease.
The parents of the 8 babies have chosen to remain anonymous, but these statements have been released. The mother of a baby girl saying, after years of uncertainty, this treatment gave us hope, and then it gave us our baby. We look at them now, full of life and possibility, and we're overwhelmed with gratitude. Science gave us a chance. Now, for those considering having a family,
In the knowledge they are a genetic carrier, it's also given them hope.
They have now created this ability, this opportunity to go through mitochondrial donation that would allow me to have healthy biological children. Being given that opportunity is so incredibly important because I would love to have my own children.
This process is prohibited under the Assisted Human Reproduction Act in Canada, but back in 2015, when it came into law in the UK, scientists at the University of Alberta questioned then if it was time to change the law. For some, there remain concerns about so-called genetically modified designer babies, but British scientists argue this proves the first real hope of breaking the cycle of an inherited condition. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
Is orange the new aphrodisiac? The color doesn't look good on everyone, we know that, but we take you on a deep dive into a Guppy's world where the brightest orange gets you the mate. That story's next. Breaking news to share with you. A spokesperson for BC's health minister says that drug funding for a girl with a rare disease in BC will be restored. The spokesperson says Minister Josie Osborne will reinstate funding for Brenora to Charlie Pollock. The 10-year-old lives with Batten disease, a rare and terminal genetic disorder that causes multiple seizures every day. Charlie's family and several experts and physicians argued the drug, which costs $1 million a year, was improving Charlie's life, but Osborne's ministry pulled the funding for it multiple times, stating evidence shows it no longer is helping slow the progress of the girl's disease. In a statement tonight, though, Osborne says, "I continue to strongly believe decisions about care should be made by health experts to ensure they're based on the best available evidence." The letter I received from Batten disease experts confirms there's significant disagreement between health experts on Brenora, and it is not acceptable that Charlie and her family suffer as a result of that disagreement about the use of Brenora. Osborne's spokesperson says the family has been told, and there'll be more to say tomorrow. Our very own Darius Madavi has been working on a colorful story out of UBC. Researchers delving deep into the world of everyone's favorite pet fish, guppies. Why their favorite color appears to be the color orange, and what it possibly reveals about the science of evolution. Here's Darius.
Here at UBC, researchers studying guppies may have cracked a long-standing mystery in ecology. Why the more orange the male, the sexier they are. And we're going to go check out the lab where the research was done.
I'm Wouter van der Bijl. I'm a research associate here at UBC. And we study little fish, guppies, in this lab. And basically we look at the evolution of different colors of these guppies.
Why guppies? I mean, they're cool fish, but why guppies?
They have lots and lots of color variation that's super interesting. So as evolutionary biologists, we really care about genetic variation. And that's because that's sort of the raw fuel of evolution. But it's always useful to look at extreme examples. And so guppies are a really extreme example of genetic variation for a trait. And that's because the males have these really extremely variable color patterns where every male almost has a unique combination of spots and stripes. It means that there's over 32,000 patterns that could be formed.
So in a selection experiment like this, you really are the hand of evolution guiding what's happening to these fish, right?
Yeah, so normally in the wild you can imagine that these patterns are always under selection, but usually it's the female that's performing the selection, right? Like she's choosing amongst the males. And here we're sort of pretending that we are the female in a way. Or at least we take away the choice of the female, and we basically place her with a male. And so we are doing the selection, making them more or less colorful.
Right, so if you were a female guppy,
yeah,
what would you be looking for in a mate?
Yeah, so the first thing you're looking at is like, are they really orange? That's something that they really care about, perhaps because it's related to immune function or other traits. But then the other thing that makes guppies sort of more unique is that females really like novel patterns. They like patterns that they haven't seen much before and are really unique.
So let's say I'm a male guppy.
Yeah.
I'm very orange.
Yes.
What else do you notice about me? How else am I different from, less orange guppies?
Other people have studied, for example, that if you compare males with different amounts of orange and you infect them with parasites, it turns out the males that have more orange are better at fending off those parasites. So in this case, as a female, maybe I don't just want to mate with a male because he's very orange, which in itself is good for a female because that means her sons might be very orange, which means those sons might be very successful as well, right? We call that the sexy son effect. But if that male also is like really good at fending off these diseases or parasites, that means it's also good for her daughters and all her offspring, basically.
The sexy son effect.
Yeah.
Great name.
Only in 3 generations we saw that if we compare the males that were up-selected, so to be more and more orange, and the ones that were down-selected to be less and less orange, we saw like a doubling of the more orange males, how much orange they had compared to the least orange males. So really a very strong and quick effect.
What else did you notice?
We saw that these more orange males, they showed almost twice as much of this display behavior. So what males do when they see a female, they try to show off their colors. So they do sort of this kind of like courtship dance, where they shake their body in front of the female, they do this shivering to really display their colors to the female. And we saw that they did almost twice as much of this behavior as the less orange males did.
Okay, so I'm a very orange guppy.
Yeah.
Am I doing this dancing behavior more just because, I've realized that I'm hot stuff? Or is there some other reason that I might be doing it more?
Because this is a response to selection, it really seems that there's like a genetic component to this relationship, right? It could mean that These males are just of better quality in some sense, and so that gives them both more orange, and they can do this behavior like more frequently in a short time span.
Big issues we're facing, like climate change and adaptation. How does learning about Guppy's colors expand out to that?
For example, if you think about how a species can adapt to climate change or how it can deal with disease, genetic variation is super important, and that's why we care about how genetic variation is created and how it is maintained.
And here's our Guppy guide, Darius Madavi, with our full weather forecast. And you even, you know, you're wearing the proper colors.
I'm wearing the fish shirt.
The fish shirt.
I don't get to wear it very often.
No,
so
and I mean, I could have,
story.
exactly, and I could have told you for free that orange is, of course, a fabulous color.
You love orange. You wear orange all the time.
Ach, the Hollands. There we are. Let's go to weather. We have a coastal fire ban.
That's right. It came into place at noon today, so just be aware if you're planning on going camping this weekend. Not only is it going to be a little bit cooler, maybe a bit more pleasant, but also fire ban is in place. So no campfires allowed, not any precipitation on the way either, really, here on the coast, although temperatures, again, are moderating a little bit more cloud coming in. No major shifts in terms of that dry weather that we've been having. In terms of the northeast, we are seeing some lightning strikes happening in this area, and they're continuing to move off into Alberta. We saw the lightning that was happening down in the southeast already move into Alberta earlier today. I do want to zoom out for a little bit and take a look at the bigger picture here. If we look at our sea level pressure map, this gives you a rough idea of what's happening. That upper low, we can't see here because this is, again, surface level, moved off into Alberta, carrying that lightning away from the southeast. Now we're going to have a little bit of a trough building in, so low pressure area building in over BC. That is what's going to be ushering in a little bit of storm potential for parts of the interior, some cloud here on the coast, and lower temperatures across southern BC. So the high pressure we've been under, bringing us sunny and hot weather, is going to be giving way to a bit of a pattern shift. But again, pretty dry still. That is the big thing that I wanted to mention on this slide, other than the fact that that high pressure will likely build back in early next week. In terms of fire danger, that remains a little bit lower along parts of the BC-Alberta border and in the southeast up to the central interior, but high here on the south coast and across southwestern BC, which is why we have that campfire ban in place, whereas the rest of the province does not. You can see that precipitation mostly moving off into the Alberta area for the most part, but once we get into the weekend, potential for a little bit of precipitation in parts of the southern interior as well. Here on the south coast, maybe up in the Alpine and the lower mainland, seeing a little bit of that precipitation, but really not expecting to see much. In terms of temperatures, those are going to be coming down over the next few days in the south pretty dramatically in parts of the southern interior, falling as much as 10 degrees by the end of the weekend. In terms of a forecast for tomorrow, a little bit of smoke up in the northeast as well as in parts of the southern interior, but for the most part, a little bit more calm, most of that smoke drifting further east, but lightning possible throughout much of the interior tomorrow. A little bit of cloud moving in tomorrow. Again, a slight chance of an alpine shower on Saturday, cloudier day on Sunday, and the sun starts to build back in, along with the temperatures rising by the time we get into early next week.
All right, Darius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Week one of our search for BC's provincial icon is ending with a bang. Is it tree hugger? Or how does Mr. PG fare? Or how about the Ogo Pogo? Totally real. We break down all the matchups next.
So I know when I really like a song, if within the first 3 seconds, I'm already vibing to it.
Hey, I'm Rohith Joseph. Vibin' is the new show all about discovering great new songs and fresh artists from across BC and beyond.
It's not one person dictating what good music is, it's the community sharing what good music is.
Stream Vibin' on CBC Listen.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC inbox.
Did you hear? CBC Musical Nooners are back. Free concerts Wednesdays at noon at the CBC Outdoor Plaza. To see who's playing this week, head to cbc.ca/musical nooners and experience culture and flavors from around the world at the Surrey Fusion Festival, July 19th and 20th. Make sure to stop by the CBC tent to play games and win prizes. Details at surreyfusionfestival.ca.
Canada's Wonderland, located north of Toronto, has just opened its newest roller coaster. The Alpenfury is the longest, tallest, and fastest coaster in the country, reaching speeds of 115 kilometers per hour.
The CBC's Mercedes Gaztambide went for a ride to check it out.
We love Alpenfury! If you're a fan of a double barrel roll, Alpenfury might just need to make your bucket list this summer. The roller coaster is Canada's Wonderland's newest and most sought-after attraction.
The launch was it was a 10 out of 10. I've been on all the rides here, best one by far.
This is my first ever big roller coaster, and I found it really fun. It just kicks you off, and then you really don't have time to think about it.
Now, I had a chance to ride this thing not once, but twice earlier. I'm gonna try so hard not to swear. This ride is fast. We're talking speeds of up to 115 kilometers per hour, but it feels even faster. Double, triple barrel rolls, hovering upside down for what feels like an eternity. The ride holds no mercy, sending you on your first launch just seconds after it starts, propelling you inside the mountain and shooting back up like a whip. It's not like typical roller coasters like the Leviathan or Behemoth that wind you up slowly to a stiff peak and shoot you down using momentum. Magnets along the track of this ride keep you flying forward through the end.
What just happened? What just happened?
I know, it looks like I was having a heart attack. It may have been bordering on that, and I did walk away with a stiff neck after the second go, but this ride delivers thrill, speed, and adrenaline in a way riders won't soon forget.
I had so much fun of it. One of my top 10 roller coasters.
Like, it was so fun. Definitely 10 out of 10 recommend. This is the best ride in all Wonderland.
I think it's going to be like the top ride in the park for a while.
Canada's Wonderland is open with regular hours until early September, so if you're looking to try the ride before the season ends, pile the family in the car and don't eat too much for breakfast. Mercedes Gaztambide, CBC News, Vaughan.
She survived.
She did.
Good fun.
Yeah.
It was years ago I've been to Canada's Wonderland.
Oh,
but it was
yeah.
a good time. Would you go on that?
Absolutely. I love
so
Canada's
did I.
Wonderland.
Oh, yeah, it's
I've
fun.
been on every ride so many times. I'm going to have to make the trip back to Ontario just to go on.
The stand-up one was a little... It messes with your brain a little bit.
The stand-up one is rough,
Yeah.
and there's a bike seat, and so if you go on it when you're too young and short, it's quite painful, actually. So they got rid of that
More
one,
in his
luckily.
book. That's right. Well, it is the final bracket in week 1 of our search for BC's best symbol.
And today, it's provincial icons in the voting queue. So what is a provincial symbol, and what are the matchups?
Our bracket master, Justin McElroy, explains.
At the beginning of the week, there were 64, but after today, there will just be 32 left in the search for BC's best symbol. After animals, nature, and coastal symbols, today it's time to vote on 16 provincial symbols, beginning with 2 of our most fundamental values, cutting down trees and trying to protect those trees. It's a logging truck versus a tree hugger in the first round, and you choose which symbol is more British Columbian. Next up, the Battle of the Mascots, as the symbol of Prince George, Mr. PG, goes up against the one and only Expo Ernie. It's South versus North, space versus wood, but only one can survive. Meanwhile, at the Battle of the Okanagan, you've got wine, you've got water sports. Which one is a better symbol? It's up to you. Elsewhere, there's the BC flag versus the BC campsite, highway route markers versus highway runaway lanes, and because so many of you asked for it, the N sticker against a sold real estate sign. But it's up to you to choose which moves on in the search for BC's best symbol.
I love that music. And you have until 10 p.m. tonight to vote for your favorites.
So let's talk some of the close races today, which include Tree Hugger and Logging Truck and Mr. PG versus Expo Ernie.
Justin's going to break down week 1 tomorrow, but let's give a few hints right now. We've got the results in front of us. The first one that we didn't mention, BC Flag versus BC Campsites. BC Flag well out ahead. What was the other one we had? Mr. PG versus Ernie Expo. Mr. PG, 55%. Expo Ernie, 44%. And what was the last one? End sticker leading sold real estate side, 75 to 24. And there we are.
Both classics. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6.
And we'll be back at 11. See you then.